Hello and welcome back. This is going to be an addition to Path of the Empress, step 14, and in embracing the Sagittarian theme of the Temperance card is inner exploration, enlightenment, things like that. And what I'm going to recommend is something that helped me immensely. And it's funny, I actually arrived at the ability to do this because when my DM first left, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I was just a mess and a half, and I was like, please, Spirit, help me somehow. And I noticed that they're one of my favorite in-person readers, Bonnie O, at the Vision Quest in Everett. If you're in the neighborhood, she's awesome to visit. She was doing a class doing tarot teachings, and I was like, I don't know why, but I'm gonna go. And like I had just barely decided within the week before that to start working on me, and I was like, I'm gonna pick a business that I'm already just totally nerdy about anyways. Like I'm gonna pick something to do that I'm already nerdy about, and I decided I was gonna do tarot and astrology. And so seeing that, I was like, oh, awesome. Like I could learn more, and she's a fantastic reader. I'd love to learn from her. And I had less than I don't even think I had 2 hours of sleep that night. I don't know that I had 3 hours total that week. Like it was really off the charts. I was a little worried about driving, but I was like, I have to do something. And I went there, and she was amazing in what we were teaching. For one thing, I brought the only tarot deck I had at the time, which was like this mini Rider-Waite deck. And when she was showing us, it was the first few major arcana cards, and I realized I was missing two. It was really interesting. It was the Magician and the High Priestess, and I was like, well, that's odd. It's synchronistic too. And she let me borrow a deck of hers. And then after we talked about the meaning of many of those cards, she did a tarot spread. And in the tarot spread, it's funny because for the first time since my DM had left, I had gotten into thinking about something else. And when the spread came up, it's funny because normally I would be thinking about like, what do I want to ask? And I was just so in love with learning about it. I didn't even ask a question. I just started shuffling and pulling the cards to lay them out in the spread. And it was a spread about where you're leaking energy. And the irony is that in reading it and even confirming with the other people in the room and with her, the reading actually told me what I needed to do in order to both glow up and work on me, and how to reconnect with my DM, which at the time I was kind of questioning, like, is that even gonna happen? Like, are we done? Like, I felt in my heart that it wasn't true, but I was questioning it, and it was so funny to me. It was one of the embrace the absurd moments of like, holy crap, I didn't even ask a question, and I got an answer to questions that I've been asking in my head. And one of the things that it revealed to me was the Four of Swords, which is about meditation and introspection and things like that. And we talked about it, and it's funny because the particular deck that she had let me borrow, it, instead of it being like the person in the coffin with the Four Swords hanging on it, it was actually these swords tied to a tree. And it reminded me of some indigenous ceremonies where we learned about prayer ties. And I had this vision of like, oh, you know what? Because my first thought was, I really want to do this. I want to do some prayer ties in person, but I'm not even always able to do that in the 3D. And I thought, you know what? I've already learned about this. I can go into a different dimension. I can go into the ethereal dimension, which I then learned was the 5D. And I started to imagine a prayer garden for myself, and my, everybody's is different, so you can take from this as what mine is, or you can go for your own. Usually when I walk someone through this in a session, which you're welcome to message me for a session of this, I do it in a very unassuming, ambiguous way so that it really comes out more naturally. So I'm gonna leave it pretty light here because it's important that you have your own experience of this. But my basic prayer garden is like, it's a forest, but it's very simple, and it's not very thick, but it has very ancient oaks and maples and stuff in it, and they're close enough to each other that in my imagination, I connect the prayer ties to it. And I have little ones. Sometimes I'll just do little ones. I like for a little extra coin, or I'm praying for this person, or praying for that person, or I'm praying for myself. And then other times when I have this really big thing I want to pray for, I'll imagine just like this huge bag of tobacco or cedar or sage or different things in my mind that I want, that match the energy of what I'm praying for, and I put those in there. And then later on, I developed different things in it, and I'll like a giving tree, which I'll explain in later videos, is a very powerful thing that you can work with too. And then I developed this treasure chest of things that I want to intentionally disassociate from for a little while, that I'm either not ready to work on, or they're just too strong at the moment, and that it's like a treasure chest that can, it's kind of towards the beginning of entering this space for me, and if I want to put something in there, it will come up from layers and layers and layers under the ground, which is something that a friend helped me learn from EDMR techniques. And when I need to put something in it, I can call it up, and it's at the base of a tree for me, and I will call it up, and I can put something in it, and then I can say thank you to it and send it down there, and I don't worry about it anymore. And that's a really nice thing too. But this requires the ability to, one, meditate, which is to not think, which isn't always easy. What I recommend, what helped me the most when I started learning to meditate years ago, was that when you're sitting and meditating, for one thing, you don't have to do it the way that it's projected. Like, you don't have to sit cross-legged or sit on your head or do some weird like yogic position. You can lay down. You could do it while walking. You could, in fact, you could listen to music and do it. The idea is to simply allow your mind to take a nap for a little while and not think. Because even when we're sleeping, our mind is still going. So you got to get to that place to where your mind is doing nothing. That's what it is. Meditation is doing nothing. And sometimes it's easier to start by doing guided meditations, like in like a prayer garden and things like that. And for others, it's easier to start the other way. But what helped me was simply to sit and be comfortable with that I'm going to feel itches, and it's going to be weird. And then when thoughts come in and I notice that they're in there, like I'm thinking about what I got to do tomorrow, or oh no, there's a parent-teacher conference meeting coming up, or I wonder what my DM is doing, I picture a bubble, like when we're kids, right? A bubble. I picture that becoming a bubble coming out of my head. And then what's funny is I thought about the Harry Potter movies with Dumbledore and the pensive, right? So, just imagine when those thoughts come up, let them go out. And I also learned a technique, for life of me cannot remember who it's from, and I'm just going to send that person wonderful energy, about, like, if you imagine that your mind is like a computer screen where, you've got the, like, say a browser, and you've got the minimize button, the close button, and the expand button, and your ego comes in and is like, but wait, think about this, but wait, think about this, like pop-up ads. And you can either close them and say, no, I don't need that, or you can minimize them and say, thank you, ego, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, but I don't want to think about that right now. Minimize, right? These are just some techniques that have helped me. You might be helped by them or find some similar that are like them. Either way, get into a practice of both meditation and of having your own sort of inner prayer garden, because it will help you learn to access the 5D. It will also help relieve you of some thoughts that are constantly moving around in your heads, and it will help you heal your patience abilities and to use your imagination. I'm just loving on that. All right, I'm going to end this video here. I think there's at least one more in me for this step 14, but we'll see. Either way, I'll watch you in the next video. I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching.